Today we're talking about a really tragic story out of Fort Lauderdale. And it's one with this just profound and painful irony at its heart. An arrest and a funeral happening on the very same day. So let's unpack this.
And this is really the gut punch of this whole thing. On one side, you have the family of Joshua Gibson Jr., just 17 years old, laying him to rest. And on the other, at that very same time, police are arresting the person they say is responsible for his death. The suspect, he's also just 17. The timing is it's hard to wrap your head around.
Okay, so let's start with this major development. After what I'm sure was an intense investigation, the Fort Lauderdale police finally announced they had a suspect in custody. This was a huge step in a case that, really shook the community after what happened on New Year's Eve.
And here's who they arrested, a 17-year-old named Marquise Trayvon Henry. You can imagine, for the family and from investigators, this arrest was a really significant moment, the first step towards getting some answers.
But, to really get the full picture here, we have to rewind. We have to go back to New Year's Eve on Fort Lauderdale Beach, a night that was supposed to be about celebration, and instead it just turned into an absolute tragedy.
And it all happened so fast. Right before midnight, people saw a group of teenagers arguing, an argument that somehow escalated, and then gunfire. In the chaos, Joshua Gibson Jr. was shot. He was rushed to the hospital, but tragically, he didn't make it.
So we've talked about the crime, the investigation, but what about the young man who was lost in all of this? Let's talk about who Joshua Gibson Jr. really was beyond the headlines.
Joshua was only 17, and he was a football player with, by all accounts, a super bright future ahead of him. People who knew him said he was sweet, but also very outspoken, real personality. He had huge plans. In fact, he was all set to go to Virginia Tech and keep playing football. So this isn't just about a life that was taken. It's about a whole future, a whole world of potential that was just wiped out. And, through all the noise of the investigation and the news reports, his mother's words they just cut right to the heart of it. She said, "I've still got a son that's never coming back home." I mean, what else is there to say? That's the devastating, permanent reality for this family. And of course, it wasn't just his family feeling this loss. A tragedy like this sends shockwaves through the whole community, and you really saw people come together to mourn and to support each other. So back to that Saturday. While the police were making their arrest, hundreds of Joshua's family and friends were gathered at Right Way Ministries. And for them, in that moment, it wasn't about the investigation or getting justice. It was just about remembering the kid they loved and saying one last heartbreaking goodbye. So you have these two huge emotional events happening at once. An arrest is made, a funeral is held. So where do things go from here? Well, the path forward really has two parts: the legal pursuit of justice, and just as important, the ongoing support for the family. And you can see that community support in a very real way. A GoFundMe page was set up for Joshua's family, trying to help them with the unimaginable costs of a funeral and just give them a little bit of breathing room while they're going through the worst time of their lives. And all of this really leaves us with a final, very heavy question. An arrest has been made, sure, the wheels of justice will start to turn, but when a 17-year-old life, one so full of promise, is suddenly just gone, what does justice even look like? What could it possibly mean for a family and for a community that's been broken by this?